Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's February 13th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And really, in the end of the day, we just had a trading range. Um, your resistance was up here around 27.61 or so, and your support's down here. Most of it's right around this 20. What is that? 27.48. I mean, that's a pretty wide range actually too. So there's enough room to get trends back and forth. We started off with a two-tiered channel working higher, and we had a break here, and we tried to make a retest here, but we never got it. That's a pretty big sell-off. Generally, after a sell-off like that, you would expect another leg down, and we started that here, but we ran out of time, and of course, we found the support down here at the same place again. So this ends up just being a range today, and that's why, because you got strong support. The buyers come in around 27.48, and the sellers are coming in up here around 27.61, 62 area. And that's why ranges will form. It's all about support and resistance, and just keep that in mind. Those are the key entry points. It's always support and resistance. Where are the key entry points? Uh, any important support, which is down here today, any important resistance, which is up here today, and then of course our 21 EMA, and then the other one are trend lines. And all a trend line is a slanted support and resistance. And generally, when you draw your trend line, just keep this in mind. When you draw your trend line, you should be able to copy it and move it to the other side, and it should hold prices just like the trend line does. Notice how every time prices come back here, it bounces. Even when it was going on through, it bounced first. And if you copy that and drag it up to the highs, look what happens. Every time prices come up here, they turn down. Then you got your midline. The same thing is happening in here. It's acting as support and resistance. It's not as important as these two, and it's not as reliable, but you got to be aware of it. And then you got a short-term one here, and look what happens. It's bouncing off those lines all the way down till you get an overshoot. It tries to make a new low. It's not successful. And generally, when you get a trend that strong, you're going to get another attempt to go lower. And you see we tried to go lower again, couldn't do it, so it rallies up, and it comes back and it tests this previous support area, and again it acts as resistance, and it sells off again. So it's important that you remember where all the money action really happens, where all the big moves occur from, is really what I'm trying to say, and that's the important support and resistance. Notice how every time we got down here, we bounced, we had a pretty good move. Notice how every time we turned down off the highs, we had a pretty good move. Notice these short-term trend lines. Every time we turned up off of one, we had a pretty good move, or every time we turned down off one, we had a pretty good move. And so keep that in mind. And even though we had an uptrend here, we're still swinging back and forth above and below the EMA. And once you reached up here, this little short-term trend had played out. Notice we had a break and a new high. But we also had two measured legs up, which doesn't always mean that that's the end of it. But remember, the market moves in twos. And really, this started up right here. So you measure that. I would measure it both ways from the original start, even if it was yesterday, on a measured move. But I would also measure it starting from today, and then there's the second leg. That's a perfect measured move, basically. We might have went one tick further, maybe there. So notice that, and that's where we started higher again after a little two-legged. There's a two-legged correction there, so that's probably the center of the pattern. So measure the first move, and then look for the second one, and you can see we got almost a perfect measured move before we sold off. We tried to go higher, but we couldn't. And then we really got two legs down. We got this leg, a correction, and then a second leg. And so there's two legs of correction to the downside as well. So it's just some important stuff that we probably needed to cover. But I'm going to back out, talk about the trades. Not a lot of them today. This won't take long, and then we'll wrap it up for today. But early on, we're moving up. Notice we try to go short once. We try to go short twice. So we tried to go lower twice. We test that trend line. You draw your trend line off the first two swings. It confirms it here. That's not a perfect signal bar, but with it being off that trend line in EMA and this looking like a possible range, and now we're making higher highs again and higher lows with plenty of room to get out here, I'm going to take that trade probably every time. You'd like a little better signal bar, but what you could have maybe done is when this one in completed, as bullish as that one is, you really could have dropped a buy stop above that one, or even let it break higher and maybe drop a limit order back at the top of it, or maybe even tick in. It looked like you would have got left behind if you did that. And that's what will happen on the best trades, trying to sneak in with a little better entry. You know, you may be reducing your risk, but at the same time, you're going to get left behind on the best trades, and that would have left you behind. And this would have easily caught a runner here going higher. And this thing moves pretty well. You come back to the trend line here again, but it's just going sideways. Lots of little doji. I mean, lots of sideways bars and a doji or two, and lots of stems. That's just congestion. You can't enter there, and we're a little ways. We've been a little ways away from the EMA for a while, but there's not much correction there. And if you see up here, even though we didn't get back to the EMA, at least we had a big enough correction, and we actually, I don't have it drawn on there, but you can see that little, there's a trend line moving down, and we closed outside, moved to a new low, and then we made a higher low and went higher. And so that's a second entry long right there. I only made that one green just simply because that's not, again, that's not a perfect signal bar. But it is a second entry long. We are looking for prices to try to make a new high, but we're a little bit away from the EMA. I would have rather been right off the EMA like here. Here everything's played out, so there's not a setup here, but if it would have, you want it to come back to the EMA like it did here and like it did here. And notice how these shorts all came back to the EMA. So they're a possibility as well. But once you start to get away from the EMA, and the longer you stay away, the more dangerous every entry gets. So that's why that one's green. Even though it's a second entry long, decent signal bar. It's not a great one, but there's plenty of room to get out. And you see we went just enough to get a new high and we reversed. And then, so now this is played out. We just came off the highs. You know, you can see where we're just bouncing off that all the way up. I mean, this is a perfect channel, and that's what you want to see. You want to see prices fit neatly in that channel. And when I say fit neatly, people always ask me, what do you mean by that? I mean, every time it touches down here, look how it's turning up. Every time it touches up here, look how it's turning down, and it's a perfect equal distance to the midline right there. Notice how prices are reacting off both sides of that midline. That shows you that it's a valid channel, and prices are fitting neatly within that channel. You don't always have a midline, but if there's enough room, usually you can find one. So, but notice we get the break, we get a new high, and where do we turn down? Right off the trend channel line, just like you'd expect. And that's a long way from the EMA. There's a lower high here, but that bar's too neutral. If you want to be really aggressive, you might take a short right there. Would have to be green though. It's just aggressive. I always tell people you want to wait. If you're coming off the highs, you're better off to wait on a lower high and really a reversal type pattern. Same thing coming off the lows. Wait on a higher low in that case, or a reversal pattern. So this is a little reversal pattern here. Notice that we got a low, new low, and then you got a first entry, a second entry, it fails, and it bounces off the EMA. You pushed right through. Look how easy we went through there. Came back, tested it, held, tested it again. This trend line's holding. That's a good reversal pattern, and that's why that signal bar is not as important as well, because it's a failed second entry short. So, and it is a second entry long as well. And if you caught that, you got a runner working up here, and you could have ridden that all the way up. I probably would have exited when it overshot here or when it broke below that bar. We talked about these two. Again, you're better off to wait on the lower high. It comes here. If that would have been a good bearish bar, I would have said go short right there. You got a little room back to the EMA, because even if it's going to go lower, there's always a chance it bounces just like it did right here. Look how it bounced back up again. And it bounces up and turns right back down, but you still got that bounce. And a lot of times that bounce may stop you out and then turn down, or it may go higher. So that you got to be careful with the EMA. You know, it can be tricky. So But when it turned up here and failed and gave you a failed second entry long, it gave you this big bearish bar. I like going short right there. And notice how we went a little lower here than these previous lows. So it's like a little breakout pullback short. And I like going short there. And I don't have it on here, but you can see how prices are fitting neatly in that channel. How we're bouncing off both sides every single time. Off it goes. We actually pushed through the EMA pullbacks. Too much sideways action there, but then you get a little breakout pullback short and it turns down right off the EMA again. I kind of like that one. Actually, I meant to, this should have been here. I kind of like this one. It's off the EMA, but there's not much room here, and there's some previous support. And this is more your breakout pullback short. And then you got room, a little more room here. Even though we're probably headed here, now you've look how you were. You came back to the I'm sorry, the midline. You came back to the midline and the EMA, and then you tested that EMA one more time. And you do get a close outside this time, but there's plenty of room here, and you're probably headed here. And so I like that one. Big bearish bar, very bearish. And there's even a lower high here, but I think you're better off to enter there and skip this one. And then of course down here we bounce right off the key entry point. There's a good bit of room back here. This bar is very bearish, but this is a nice inside bullish bar. So you may play it off that one, just running back to the EMA. And notice how it runs back to the EMA and it finds resistance there, but it still pushes on through. And that's what you want to see, it push on through. And you actually get a break. You try to go higher once, and then you get a second entry with a bullish bar. And we just came off this side. Even though we just came off here, I'd probably take this trade right here, just simply because you haven't retested this yet. That's a nice little two-legged correction with a nice bullish reversal type bar, and it runs up. There's a lower high here, but now you're kind of getting into some resistance. Same thing here. Too much resistance up here. You got a double top, and a lot of times when you keep making higher lows, you may break through. But in this case, it didn't, and now you've got a double test, and it's pretty obvious we're kind of going sideways. So I like that big bearish bar just to ride it back down. And then it bounces again. The only reason I was a little leery of this, because that's a fairly nice move, and if you draw your trend line on that, you don't have any break and retest or anything like that. You might could look at it right here that maybe we closed outside and then moved lower and bounced, but I think that's a stretch. That's not a convincing close outside that trend line, because you could adjust that trend line slightly and see it totally different. So, but it's a little trap. Notice how we tried to go lower twice right there, and this has been the support. And it's obvious now we're kind of going up and down. So that's where you want to enter at the low side. Now you got a chance. You're better off to get that higher low, but this is too close, and notice what happens. You touch it and turn right back down again. And so it's too risky going long right there without enough room to get out. Runs down, and this thing just keeps going. It looks like it's going to bounce here, but nope, it just keeps going. And when it pulls back here and gives you a failed second entry long, notice that new high. You're moving down first entry long. You move down pretty much a measured move. Second entry long, big bearish bar. At this point, I'd be looking for that measured leg down at a minimum. There's leg one. So you're looking for prices to come to at least here. And lo and behold, prices just, they keep going. So that was a great entry. Again, you would have had a runner right there. And look at it go. It way overshoots. We make a new low here. You get a close outside. You try to go lower once, twice. You might look at this as a double test, but it's not a very good signal bar. This signal bar is right into the lows. This signal bar too is right into the highs, but what's probably going on down here is look how long we've been away from the EMA. We're overdue to come back. So if you're going to enter down here, it needs to be on a prices coming back, because this is a huge sell-off. And you're probably going to at least come back to the EMA, even if you're going lower again. and the measured move is way overdone. So there's a good chance you pull back to at least to that measured move level, and see how we came right back in there and it tried to sell off again before it reversed. That's pretty common. So again, but the main reason I like this one is just a double test of that low. You do have to be a little concerned about this resistance up here though. So, but if you understand what's going on, prices are just trying to bounce back to the EMA because we've been away for so long. And we do have an overshoot down here too. So that's another clue that we may try to go higher. And it does take off, and you get your little close outside, move. Actually, I don't think we get a new high. You just kind of get a double top there, bearish bar. You might wait on a lower high. You get one here, but too big a bar, too much stem. You could look at this as a failed second entry long, but with a really small bar, and it would have worked. You would have got just enough to get out on that trade. I believe you would have, but I still wouldn't take that trade because this is really your signal bar. And we didn't get back to the EMA either. There looks like two measured legs there. So if anything, you might look for a short trap, which we finally get here. Notice how we pushed through the EMA, had a failed second entry short, reversed. Looks like everything's working off that trend line. I like going long right there. It's a little bit aggressive. I would like to see this closing above that EMA, but this is close enough to look like a reversal pattern, and we did have two legs down, and that, I mean, even though you got three swings there, it looks like one leg up, so we'll probably at least get a measured leg. So that's another reason I like that one. But let's just measure it. I never measured it. Eyeballing it, it looks like a perfect measured move. Looks like it actually went a little further, but you can see how we found resistance at a perfect measured move there, and then it actually pushed a little higher before it corrected. And notice this is basically, even though it never broke lower, it's a little double bar matching low, so that's like a new low. So you can treat this as a new low because that's really a new swing low. Even though it didn't break lower, you treat that like one. Or you can treat it like one. You can count it both ways. But this thing moves up, tries to go lower once, tries to go lower twice. And the only reason I didn't like going, it actually went shorter and then went long, turned up. But you had to go long right into that high. But when it tries to go lower again and that trend line holds and it gives you this nice bullish bar, I like going long there. And notice how it did pull back and test that breakout before it went higher. But at this point, it was pretty obvious we're probably going to move on up a little higher. And that got you in the 2 o'clock hour. I didn't see anything else I liked. So there weren't a lot of trades today. Wasn't the hardest day to trade either. It was fairly straightforward. You know, if you see what's going on here, by this point of the day, you probably should have been thinking range. And there really weren't many trades after that, though. There's just not a lot of trades again today. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, about 8 red or blue trades, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 green trades. So there's enough trades to do, you know, to make a regular trading day, but you just had to be a little patient, and you had to wait on prices to, you know, make those traps and make those reversal patterns and things like that. So not a bad trading day, actually. But anyway, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today. So we'll come back tomorrow and wrap it up tomorrow. I think President's Day is coming up Monday. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the trading schedule. I can't remember if President's Day is the day that the market's closed or not. So I just need to look at it. Normally they'll send out an email and tell us anyway. Your broker will. So just be aware that Monday might be if it might be a trading holiday. If it is, we won't have any chart lesson or midday chart on the website either. So I just got to double check it, and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. But so I'm just throwing that out there. Some of you can check it out just to be prepared. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up our week. Hope you had a good trading day. I'll see you tomorrow. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.